Right, so our next topic here, transformation geometry. Now that is when, let's take this page I have here. And transformations is when you move something, in other words, just shift it left and right without doing anything else to it. See that? The orientation of the page stays the same. That is a translation. Then you also get rotations, where it rotates around the point, or it can rotate like that. Right? That's called rotations. And then you get reflections, where the thing flips over, right? It's been reflected over the line and it reflects and the orientation changes. Right, so questions you might face will be asking you to describe the transformation, and I'm going to write the descriptions down here, and when you're asked to describe, this is the wordings that we're looking for. Then they can ask you the rule that tells you what happens to a point. That's the general rule I'm going to write down for you, and lastly I'll show you how this works by using an example. Okay, so the description part. First one we're looking at is just shifting a shape left, right or up and down, and that is called a translation, right? That's a translation, and we say the translation is by a certain amount of value, certain amount of units. Let's call it A units, and I'm going to say to the right. That's our positive side on our X and Y axis, called the Cartesian plane, right? And if I had a point there, a triangle like that, let me just take it over a little. There we go. So let's say that's the point A, B, and C. That's -6 and 1. That's -3 and, I don't know, let's make it 5. And let's make that -2. Let's make that -4. Let's make it a bit nicer. -4, and let's make that -2 and 4 going up that way. That's my point B. So now I've got that shape, and I want to shift the shape, translate it. So I'm going to say translation by A units to the right, which means if A is 5, then I go 5 units that way. If A is -1 or -2, if it's negative, then I go this way. To the left is negative, to the right is positive. Y-axis, same thing. And B units up, being my positive direction, up is positive. So if my B value is, say, 2, then I go 2 units up. -2, then I go 2 units down. So I'm going to do an example and then write the general rule for it, right? Let's do the general rule first. Now what I do is I say, the Cartesian plane, we have values. Coordinates, as you might know from plotting points on a Cartesian plane, is called XY plane. That is, the X value comes first and then the Y value. So positive X, negative X. Positive Y, negative Y. Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, -1, negative. Think of it as 2 number lines crossing each other, right? And that there is 0, that's the origin, the 0 for both lines. So my X value first, then the Y. So any value, this is my starting triangle end. So that's my input X, Y. What do I do to each of these points? What do I end up with? What do I do to X? Right means plus, so I go X plus A and Y plus B. That's just called the general rule. Now I'm going to do one specific one here as an example, and I'm going to use my example point, the point 3, 5, and I'm going to say let A be equals to, I don't know, 4 and let B be equal to -3. Just to show you what the plus and the minus means. So 4 means my input xy, which is 3, 5. Okay, wait, I'm going to write down the general rule for this specific one, which will now be my xy goes to, for that specific a and b, my rule will be x plus 4, y minus 3. See that? Plus 4 minus 3. So if I put my point 3, 5 in there, what happens? 3 plus 4 is, my new point will be 7. And what will the y value be? The y value is 5, so I go minus 3, which is 2. So on the Cartesian plane, the point, I'm just going to plot that point there. I'm going to say 3 and 5. That point there would go across to 7 and down to 2. So that's the transformation from there to there. 3, 5 to 7, 2. Anyway, let's look at my example here. Let's say, a lot of times they'll give you the triangle and they'll ask you to translate it by a certain amount of units. Now let's use the same thing here. What happens to the point A? So -4 plus 4 becomes 0. So it's on that axis there, hey? So it moves 4 units that way. And then 3 units down, so that point will become, let me just write, let's put an arrow out there and say, my A prime will be -4 plus 4 is 0. And 5 minus 3 is 2. Let's plot that point. That is at x value of 0, y value of 2, which will be around there. So that point will be my new, that'll be A prime. Then the same thing will happen to C. See, that'll go, what will happen to that point? -6 plus 4 is -2. 1 minus 3 is -2. Oh, nice symmetrical point. So -2, -2. There would be the new point, C prime. Let's call this C prime. When you create a new shape, you obviously don't call it the same thing. You can't call it A, B, and C. It's got new little primes next to it to call it. So B, what happens to B? -2 plus 4 is 2. So that'll go to the point 2, B prime. And what happens to the 4? It becomes 1. So 2 and 1. There we go. So I can draw my new shape. There it is. You can see that these two shapes look exactly the same. It's just been moved that way. Alright? And that's translations.